Greetings, fellow Whovians, and welcome to Timey Wimey Review. It has now been 50 years since Tom Baker made his debut as the Fourth Doctor, a season that really just defined his legacy and his status in popular culture as one of the greatest, if not best, Doctors in Doctor Who history. So I thought it'd be great to look back on season 12 of classic Doctor Who, which was of course Tom Baker's first full season as the Fourth Doctor, and look at ranking what was the best to worst of the classic stories. I think we're all going to know what number one is, but it is quite fascinating to to think about where you would rank the rest of the wonderful stories that came out in 1974 to 1975. So please hit the subscribe button, that will really help out this channel. And also, in celebration of Tom Baker's recent award as an MBE, let's look at season 12 classic Doctor Who ranked. Before I start, this video is also in tribute to the actor Christopher Benjamin, who sadly passed away recently at the age of 90. He was probably one of the most recognisable Doctor Who alumni, with some terrific performances both from classic and modern Doctor Who, but perhaps best known for his role as Henry Gordon Django in the Fourth Doctor story, The Talons of Weng-Chiang. Thoughts and love to families and friends involved. He will be missed. So let's start at number 5, and I have to say that even though it is the lowest out of the particular stories from the season, it doesn't make any of them absolutely unwatchable. It is just a very strong season anyway, as we're sort of leading up to the golden era of Doctor Who, but a story has to go somewhere. I'm going to have to say that number 5, sadly, is going to be Revenge of the Cybermen. And you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, we've got the classic Cybermen returning after so many years. How could this possibly be at the bottom? Well, it's just a story that just doesn't do justice for the Cybermen, in my opinion. It is still a good adventure. I think it's probably one of those that you probably best to watch with friends, have a little laugh at the special effects, and kind of just the whole sort of story arc and demeanor of the Cybermen, particularly with a few drinks, won't go amiss on this particular one, because the Cybermen looking, well, we see Cybermen from the 60s era of Doctor Who as these dominant automatons. Here they're just, yeah, they got the status and the stature, but nothing else going for it. The voices are just not as menacing as they could possibly be. You have one of them sort of standing with their hands on their hips. There was another Cyberman, I always found it weird, I don't know why, but they're like sat on a control desk of their own spaceship. I just don't see that happening. I just don't feel the need for the Cybermen to go, we need a chair on this command bridge. I just never got it. This was obviously the story as well that introduced the Cybermen, that they have a vulnerability to gold as they take on the planet Voga, which is the planet of gold. And I don't mind that concept in theory, but when you're kind of trying to establish the Cybermen as a returning dominant figure to sort of help launch Tom Baker as your brand new Doctor, it's just, I don't know, I just don't think it was an element that really necessarily needs to be there. And yeah, I think it again just weakens the Cybermen. I think it was utilized way better in the fifth Doctor story, Earthshock, but here it just doesn't do any justice, which is a shame because the Cybermen can be quite dominant, particularly with the lasers stuck to their heads, a bit like Austin Powers, I suppose. Even the Fourth Doctor doesn't really take the Cybermen too seriously, basically telling them that a bunch of tin-plated robots skulking about the galaxy in an ancient spaceship. So already their just demeanor has been tarnished, and no fault to Tom Baker at all, but obviously he went from strength to strength to strength in his first season as the Doctor, to the point where there was just no invulnerabilities, and they were already showing in Tom Baker's portrayal as the Fourth Doctor. Something else I found a little bit off was, I think, in towards the end of part 2, when the Cybermen were invading the spaceship, and the Doctor was just basically ran away and let the soldiers start taking on the Cybermen. And obviously they came out with their lasers from their heads, and from all intents and purposes, killed them. The Doctor didn't know they were going to be stunned, and obviously the Doctor got stunned as well by the Cybermen. That's probably the most dominant part of Revenge of the Cybermen, is that particular scenes and cliffhangers. But yeah, it's just a very odd thing for the Doctor to have done, just to leave these soldiers to all the crew of the space station to just basically die. He didn't know they're going to be stunned. Or it just didn't get explained very well on screen. There is still a lot of fun to be had here. There's some great location work at Wookiee Hole, and there's also some great interactions between Sarah and Harry, which was throughout season 12 of Classic Doctor Who one of the great dominant highlights. But sadly, Revenge of the Cybermen is at number 5. Coming in at number 4 is the Fourth Doctor's very first story, Robot, a story that I have reviewed in full, so please do check that out on the Timey Wimey Review YouTube channel. It is a fun story, don't get me wrong, and it does very well at establishing Tom Baker as the Fourth Doctor, to the point where really you just felt that he was the Doctor within probably 25 minutes, particularly within the first episode, I would say. If not, definitely by the end of part 2. There are some fun moments in there. We've got the big giant K1 robot, a very cumbersome type of robot, and Michael Kilgareth did a very good job of portraying this robot, because it wasn't very easy. Like I said, it's just a fun adventure, brisks by the 4-part episodes, and again establishes Tom Baker as the Fourth Doctor, much to really the blessing or unblessing or curse to poor Ian Marter as Harry, because really his role was to be the sort of the heavy lifting action guy, but then obviously Tom Baker was given the role as the Fourth Doctor, and he wasn't really needed. Although, there is some great moments with Harry Sullivan, and Ian Marter does the very best with what he's given throughout his time traveling days with the Fourth Doctor and Sarah throughout season 12. The other thing that kind of I noticed from Robot was it definitely felt like an end of an era, and we're going into a new era of Doctor Who, particularly with units. This felt like a third Doctor story throughout, which makes perfect sense. You've got the team behind the third Doctor era, Barry Letts and Terrance Dicks, and yeah, you could argue they were playing it safe with this debut story, but equally it's still a fun story and a great adventure to be had. But it definitely felt like Unit was definitely becoming a thing of the past, and it definitely, for me, was a little bit sort of a bit of a bittersweet sadness that Unit were definitely going to be disappearing very soon from Doctor Who. It's not a perfect story. It does have some very interesting effects, like the toy tank and the CSO of the robot being going into giant size, as big as the house, and the sort of actual perspective scale of this robot is a little bit off in between. But again, it's just a fun adventure, and it did what it went to do, which was to establish a brand new Doctor, and boy did we get that. Number 3 is the Sontaran Experiment, a 2-part adventure, the first 2-part adventure that we've had since the first Doctor story, The Rescue, I believe. Let me know in the comments below, I'm probably wrong. But a good sort of 50-minute story. I think it could have gone on a bit longer, to be honest, because it just flies by at a rip-roaring pace. To the point where I thought that, oh gosh, it wrapped things up very quickly, and it was just from scene to scene to scene to scene to scene. Not really much for the Doctor, Sarah, Harry to do. Again, it could have been a very much a what if Doctor Who light story where we're just following the Sontarans with their survey on humans to in their quest of dominating the galaxy. It was great to see the Sontarans again. Great to see Kevin Lindsay return as General Steyer. And yeah, I love the cliffhanger for part one with the big reveal of the Sontaran and taking the helmet off. The music by Dudley Simpson is amazing. Probably a fantastic, if not an underrated, Doctor Who cliffhanger, particularly from season 12. I have to give full extra credit though for having this two-part story all on location. Great writing by Bob Baker and Dave Martin. Really establishes the Sontarans again. It was a great return for them when you compare that to the return of the Cybermen, as I mentioned earlier in this video. And yeah, again, a great performance from Tom Baker. Particularly when he broke his collarbone in this story and having to sort of deal with very high hills and that where you probably just want to go home and rest. Number 2 is the arc in space. Robot establishes Tom Baker as the fourth Doctor, but the arc in space definitely solidifies Tom Baker as the fourth Doctor. Straight from episode 1 with the wonderful speech about Homo sapiens is just an iconic moment in the fourth Doctor's tenure. And I particularly like Sarah and Harry's relationship and friendship with each other, with Harry being very much a sort of out-of-date gentleman with yeah, and this is what we also got from the Sontaran Experiment as well, with come on Sarah, come on oh girl, let's do this, blah 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 blah. And Sarah very much being the sort of action, have a go, not going to take any nonsense from any men type of approach, with her journalistic integrity. And the character obviously already established through John Pertwee's final season as the third Doctor. So those contrasts there just makes good it's good storytelling, good character work, and definitely what they probably should have done between the Sixth Doctor and Perry instead of the weird bickering that we got. But back to the arc in space, and we definitely get that sort of thrilling scares and just thought-provoking stories of how the human race survives on this space pod, and then we got this alien creature that is there to basically take over the human race, particularly with bubble wrap. Yeah, like I said, it's not like the most perfect in terms of effects and stuff. Like I said, the green bubble wrap not being the best one, but and obviously the big sort of bug alien of the Wirren. But yeah, it's still a fun story nonetheless. It's still a gripping story. And like I said, it solidifies Tom Baker as the fourth Doctor. Which means number 1, which might not be a massive surprise to many Whovians, especially hardcore Whovian fans from the Whoniverse, but still definitely needs to be praised and talked about, is Genesis of the Daleks. I don't want to go into too much detail because I will be celebrating this 50th anniversary story in March on the Timeline View YouTube channel. And I know a lot of things have been said about this story because, quite frankly, yes, it is one of the best, if not the best, Doctor Who story throughout the show's entire 60-plus year history. But wow, what a story. 6 thrilling episodes about the origins of the Daleks and the war with the Thals and the death of the race of Khalids, which became the Daleks, establishing a new iconic character to Doctor Who in the form of Davros, wonderfully played by Michael Wisher. This is just peak Doctor Who. Absolutely peak Doctor Who, from script to screen. Everyone played their part, from the writing, from Terry Nation, which, obviously needed to be a bit more sort of encouragement, shall we say, from Terence Dix and Barry Letts after his first draft for a new Dalek story. But, we got Terry Nation at his very, very best in this story. We got Tom Baker at his very, very best. If anything, probably we've still mileage to go really from his tenure as the Fourth Doctor. But yeah, being only 4 stories in and bringing out a performance like that is just unfathomable, is the only way I can describe it. With plenty to do with Sarah and Harry to be getting on with. But the richness of all the guest actors and characters as well is just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Even though the Daleks were taking a bit of a back seat in this particular story, they still had a menacing presence, which again was not even touched by the Cybermen, as I mentioned earlier, or even the Sontarans. You know, it was a good return for them, but this was a better return for the Daleks, and all under the leadership of Davros as well, and his right hand man Nida, and the rest of the Khalid scientific elite. It's just phenomenal stuff. Great storytelling. Is it the best one? I don't know. I always have two minds of it. It is near perfect. There's still some oddities in this particular story. Giant clams, anyone, as part of the Mark II travel machine, maybe, and even the Doctor choking on a bit of sort of fleshy chicken at the end of part 5 into part 6. But still, this is just a fantastic story. I can't wait to go into a more deep dive into this story, which I will be reviewing in March as part of the 50th anniversary of Genesis of Daleks. That will be happening on the Time Rhyme Review YouTube channel in March 2025. But Genesis of the Daleks is definitely the #1 spot for Doctor Who, classic Doctor Who season 12 ranked. As I said earlier in this video, even though I ranked Revenge of the Cybermen and Robot quite low on this list for the rankings, it still doesn't mean they are skippable stories. Season 12 overall is a solid season for Doctor Who and a great season to launch a brand new Doctor. This is why sort of Terrance Dicks and Barry Letts are definitely regarded as one of the best producer-writers combo in Doctor Who history, particularly in the John Pertwee era of Doctor Who. But yeah, they did a great job of establishing the Fourth Doctor, and then we got Philip Hinchcliffe waiting in the wings to really catapult Tom Baker and the Fourth Doctor into the golden age of Doctor Who. So if you haven't watched this season for a while, do check it out. You are not going to be disappointed. For now, my fellow Whovians, do you agree or disagree with my rankings? Let me know in the comments below what order you would put these classic Doctor Who stories from worst to best from season 12 of classic Doctor Who. I would love to see your ranking lists in the comments. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please like, share and subscribe. Hit the cloister bell for more notifications. Come say hello and follow me on Facebook and X. And do check out my other fantastic Doctor Who related content on the Timey Wimey Review TikTok page. And of course right here on the Timey Wimey Review YouTube channel. And as the good doctor once said, why is a mouse when it spins? I never knew the answer to that one.